Welcome. Let's talk about something that's on everyone's mind, artificial intelligence. It's changing everything, right? But it has a huge appetite and it runs on data, our data. So how do we get all the amazing benefits of AI without giving up our privacy? That's the big question we're tackling today.
And just so you know, all the concepts we're diving into today come straight from Chapter 5 of a document called the Ethical AI and AI Security Glossary, which was put together by Virtualization Options LLC. We're breaking down their insights for you. And really, this brings us to the core puzzle we have to solve. On one hand, AI gets smarter and more useful the more data it has. But on the other hand, that same data can be incredibly personal. So we're stuck in this tug of war. How do we move forward? So, where do we even start? Well, the first part of the answer isn't some super complex technology. It's actually about laying down some basic, foundational rules for how data should be treated from the very beginning. And it all begins with this really simple but powerful idea: data minimization. Honestly, it's brilliant. The principle is just this: if you don't collect data in the first place, it can't be leaked, it can't be stolen, and it can't be misused. It forces companies to stop and ask, wait a minute, do we really need to know that? And right alongside that, you've got consent management. This is huge because it's all about putting you back in the driver's seat. This is the system that makes sure a company doesn't just take your data, but that you are actively and consciously choosing to share it, and you know exactly why.
But let's be real, for consent to actually mean anything, it can't just be a checkbox next to a 100-page legal document nobody reads. It has to have these 4 pillars. First, you have to be informed. You need to know what's happening. Second, it's got to be freely given, no tricks or pressure. Third, it has to be specific. You're agreeing to one thing, not giving them a blank check. And maybe most importantly, it has to be revocable. You need an easy way to say, you know what, I've changed my mind.
Okay, so we've got our ground rules. But what happens when data is collected? Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the actual techniques people use to protect that information once it's in the system. The most common first step is something called anonymization. You can basically think of this like taking a big black marker to a document and scribbling out all the names, addresses, and phone numbers. The goal is to just strip out anything that could directly identify a person. But here's the problem. It turns out that's often not enough. For example, some researchers took a supposedly anonymized set of Netflix viewing data, and by comparing the viewing patterns to public movie reviews on IMDb, they were actually able to figure out who some of the people were. So clearly, we need something stronger. And that brings us to a much more powerful tool called differential privacy. This is really clever. Instead of just removing names, this technique adds a little bit of random mathematical noise to the data. It's like adding a digital fog that makes it almost impossible to tell if any one person's information is in the data set or not, but you can still see the big picture trends. Of course, there's a trade-off here. The more noise you add to make the data more private, the less accurate it becomes for analysis. So it's always this balancing act between getting maximum privacy and keeping the data useful. All right, now we're going to look ahead at a couple of truly mind-blowing technologies that are completely flipping the script on how we approach privacy and AI. This is the cool cutting-edge stuff. First up, we have federated learning. Now, this totally reverses the old way of doing things. For decades, we've sent our data to some central company server to get processed. With federated learning, the AI model actually travels to your device. Your personal data never ever leaves your phone. The best way to think about this is like a traveling chef. The AI model is the chef. It comes to your kitchen, your phone, and learns from your local ingredients, your data. Then it only takes the new recipe ideas, the learnings, back to the May restaurant. It doesn't take your ingredients with it. This is how your phone's keyboard gets better at predicting what you're going to type without sending your actual private messages anywhere. So that's already a game changer. But what if we could take it one step further? What if there was a way to analyze data without ever having to see it? I know, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but this might just be the holy grail we've been looking for. It's called homomorphic encryption. And yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. But the idea is incredible. Imagine you put your sensitive data in a locked box, but the box is transparent. You can hand that locked box to someone, and they can do math on what's inside. They can organize it. They can analyze it, all without ever having the key to open it. That's homomorphic encryption. And here's why that's so revolutionary. With normal encryption, you have to unlock the data to work with it. And in that one moment it's unlocked, it's vulnerable. With homomorphic encryption, that moment of vulnerability just disappears. The data stays locked and safe the entire time it's being processed. It's wild. So after going through all of that, what's the big picture? The main thing to remember is that there isn't one single tool that solves everything. Real privacy protection is all about having a layered defense, a whole toolbox full of different strategies that work together. And this is our privacy toolbox. You start with the ground rules, right? Data minimization and consent. Then you have your techniques for protecting data, like anonymization or the much stronger differential privacy. And finally, you've got the revolutionary game changers like federated learning and that magic locked box of homomorphic encryption. Each one plays a critical part. And all this leaves us with one final and really important question to think about. We know AI is getting smarter and more powerful at an unbelievable speed. The challenge for all of us is making sure that our privacy tools and our dedication to using them can keep up. The race is definitely on.